out. Reward feels good. That's basically what happens when you're pursuing something or when you catch it. You like pursuing better because you're human, but catching things is not so bad either. And if you pursue something successfully, what happens is that your brain produces dopamine as a consequence of the markers of your success. Now, the dopamine has a biological function. Now, imagine this. What the dopamine does is it looks at your brain structures and it says, let's make the structures that were operating while we were doing this pursuit grow. That's reinforcement. And then you might ask, well, what do you mean by operating during this pursuit? I mean, let's say you're trying to date someone, you've been doing it for 5 years. So which circuits are activated just before you do it? Well, a whole bunch of them. Complex circuits. So imagine every time you pursue something, there's a sequence of circuitry that's operative. And that as you're successful, the dopamine reinforces those circuits with the ones temporally closest being reinforced more, so they grow, but the ones farther back also being reinforced. Now, think about it this way. So, you're a methamphetamine addict. Well, when you start out, you're not an addict. You're just someone who's bored to death or somewhat self-destructive or some combination of both. Doesn't matter. So, what happens when you decide to take methamphetamine? Well, the first thing you need is a nice set of rationalizations, right? You got to think, what the hell? Or you got to think, I'm too drunk to know better. Or you got to think, the future's not worth living anyways. Or you have to think, to hell with this. Any of those will do. And so you think those, and then you act, and you take the methamphetamine, and it wallops you with the dopamine hit, and exactly those circuits grow. So then you might ask yourself, what happens if you activate the cognitive circuit that's associated with the future doesn't matter and to hell with it 10,000 times? Then you have a little devil in your head that's a full-fledged personality. It has a very nihilistic viewpoint. The viewpoint is, to hell with it, which is not a good viewpoint to adopt. And it's massive after you've hit it 1,000 times with methamphetamine. And so the you that used to be, you'll still be there when you're not craving. But as soon as you get sight of something that's associated with methamphetamine, that little monster that you grew inside your head, which is one of these cyclops, it's going to pop up and shut the rest of you down. And so that's not so good. And so the addiction isn't a behavior that's manifested in response to a cue, and it's not craving. It's the manifestation of a full-fledged, one-dimensional personality with its own perceptions, emotions, motivations, and cognitions that wants one thing and does not care about anything else. Well, maybe it also cares about the other things that you think to hell with, because, that's in the associated cognitive web. So that's what grows. So there's 10 years of meth use in the top left-hand corner, and so you can see that the person's well-being is pretty much sacrificed entirely to the demands of the drug. Methamphetamine is a vicious dopamine agonist, right? So it operates very rapidly, and that's one of the things that makes something addicting. But addicting is complicated. Addicting means that it grows an addicted personality in your head. That's why it's so hard to get unaddicted. It's not just a matter of getting rid of the craving. That's nothing. You can put someone in a cell for 3 days and they won't be going through withdrawal anymore. They won't crave as long as they're there. Show them one of their meth friends, boy, the craving's back because that system's in their head and it's alive. Now, older or more archaic people were a little more intelligent than us, accepting the psychoanalysts, because they knew that most of the pathological things that happen to us are like personalities. So here's one in the bottom right, that's the devil of liquor. Well, what does liquor have in it? A spirit. Right, and what's the spirit? Well, the spirit's Dionysius, of course, or Bacchus. And so when you drink the spirit that's in alcohol, you're opening yourself up fundamentally to something like possession by a Dionysius. Of course, you like that because Dionysius is a very short-term, pleasure-seeking, sort of lustful type of sub-personality, and you got to repress that most of the time because, it's not very sightly. But if you drink enough wine, whoa, fun. You can do all the stupid things that really give you a dopamine kick but aren't so good for you in the long run. So, and it's best to think about that as a personality.